Today, Rand Paul once again humiliates Dr. Fauci. Kamala assumes her position as the new head of the Disinformation Board, and the CDC issues bizarre guidance on how to have sex with monkeypox. Yeah, it's a Friday. We've got that and more coming up, and it all starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Happy Friday. I am Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by BlazeTV contributor Eric July, host of For Canon's Sake, which you should be subscribed to on YouTube. Young Ripa 5'9". No, he's not ever changing it.
Never.
He will always be young.
Even when I'm old,
yes.
I'll be young.
Yes, and also on the program, it's on a Friday. No one is expecting it, but we've got Stu Burguiere, host of Stu Does America, which you also should be subscribed to on YouTube.
I, however, am getting old.
This is old Ripa 5'9". The name is already taken. Is the problem? He couldn't even change it if he wanted to. So I want to get into. Look, it's Friday, so I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't at least play at least one weird Joe Biden clip. And he always delivers for us. So we appreciate him for that. Joe Biden yesterday was speaking to, I guess, the employees of Joann's stores. And Stu, we were talking about this off air. He's mentioning the CFO, but he's incorrect in that. I guess the CEO.
I think it was the CEO. Yeah,
passed away unexpectedly, and Joe Biden, you know, his bedside manner, we all know, is very, very, very good, and just really, you can tell the sincere passion in his voice and tone, and not just the voice and tone, but also the words that he uses when he sends his condolences. Watch.
And by the way, my sympathies to the family of your CFO, who dropped dead very unexpectedly. My best to their family. It's tough stuff.
I love that.
I always know that someone really means it when they're giving me condolences and they say when that person dropped dead. That's tough stuff, man. That's tough stuff. Better you than me, though. Am I right? God.
I mean, Biden doesn't feel the normal grieving process here. He's been staring death in the eyes for 80 years at this point. So he's happy to just be able to roll that one out. That's an interesting moment.
He didn't even know who he was talking about. Anyway.
Obviously, someone gave him a card. The and it was the CEO. He didn't get it right. Dropped dead, and then tough stuff. I mean, he is the worst.
The family of the CFO must have been like,
holy crap! Wait, what happened?
They died? I didn't know. Oh, Joe just got it wrong yet again.
It's so funny, man, watching this guy try to operate just like he's on films. We all know that he's on films, even like him trying to figure out CFO. He couldn't get that out. He couldn't really figure out what the situation was. What am I talking about? They told me something. I don't know. I'm going to see what happens. Tough stuff, bro. I actually cared, but I didn't. But seeing this play out, I guess it goes to what we were talking about kind of, what was it? Maybe one of the early, I've been on this show so damn much, kind of, everything runs into each other.
I don't know. That sounded kind of
tough stuff. Tough stuff. No, but we were talking about earlier how I know when I went on my rant talking about stupid Americans, you got a lot of responses there.
I can't imagine why.
But seriously, this is the guy that you guys thought was a better alternative to the orange guy, who everybody knows I'm not certainly a fan of by any means. But they wanted someone so bad, the adults are back in charge, we're going to build back better. And we have a guy where it seems like every show here, we're talking about him stumbling, bumbling, and not really understanding what's going on. He doesn't seem to be coherent. He doesn't seem to have it all upstairs. But it seems like he's deteriorated a lot. It's been accelerated. It feels like it's worse. When he was going into office, it's this guy doesn't have it all. And now it's wow, he really doesn't have it all. At all. At all. At all. So when I think it can't get worse, it does seem to get worse. But hey, man, this is what democracy gets you. So it's funny that folks look at it when he was getting back in charge, we're no longer going to be the laughingstock of the world. And I'm Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm laughing for sure.
Oh, everyone I've talked to who's not like a Twitter bot, who doesn't live here, is like, oh God, we are. I mean, we've played on the program before clips from Australia news where they literally are laughing.
All laughing
They
at
think
me.
they're like, how can this possibly be true that the president of the United States is in fact half dead, like, and still there at the helm running things? How can that possibly be true? I want to play one more clip for you, which is I tried to track down who it was that was asking Biden these tough questions, and I couldn't. So if anyone knows, please send me a message. But Joe Biden, yesterday, he was signing a whole bunch of orders, and he was asked about his failure to sanction the wife of the mayor of Moscow. Now, this is the one who gave Hunter Biden $3.5 million. And Joe Biden was just like, huh? I don't even think he knew what was going on. Watch.
Conversation with Russian oligarch Yelena Baturina, who did business with your son.
He, like, could he look any older?
Oh my gosh, it really is.
He really, I'm not even saying this to be mean. He literally looks like an elderly person at a nursing home who doesn't really know what's going on.
Pretty sure that was Alex Stein yelling out the questions. At least that's how I pictured it.
Yeah.
It's funny. Back in the day, Woodrow Wilson had a stroke, and he was running the country, quote unquote, for about 2 years, just completely infirmed and out of the picture. And he did not make public appearances. At that point, his wife was sort of running the country.
Right.
I don't necessarily want Dr. Jill to take over, but I will say, I think Joe should really consider going back to his campaign strategy, which was stay in your basement, never come out, never talk to anybody about anything. We all know his advisors are running the show anyway. You're just embarrassing the country, and you're making it seem as if we're very weak and in trouble. I mean, I think our foreign adversaries are looking at us right now and saying, holy crap, I mean, these guys are in trouble. They're in serious danger right now. And they're, of course, excited about that. I don't necessarily want to communicate that to the rest of the world, though. I'd rather have him just hide. It's probably the best thing politically for him to do as well. Just run away and hope no one thinks about you for the next 3 years. That's the best possible approach if you're Joe Biden.
You're not wrong. I want to switch to, let's see, Kamala. We're talking about Joe. Let's talk about Kamala here. The White House announced yesterday that Vice President Kamala Harris is going to lead an effort to oppose disinformation and online abuse, which is really interesting because I seem to, maybe it's just me, I seem to get a barrage of online abuse coming from the left themselves. I wonder if she's going to hunt those people out. The statement said that Joe Biden is going to sign a presidential memorandum establishing the White House task force to address online harassment and abuse. And Harris launched the initiative with a survivor and expert roundtable yesterday. So this task force, say that 3 times fast, is going to produce recommendations for the federal government, state governments, technology platforms, schools, and other public and private entities to prevent and address technology-facilitated gender-based violence, including a focus on the nexus between online misogyny and radicalization to violence.
Wow.
So, yeah, congrats.
So
everyone.
it's another like level of bureaucracy that, well, they don't necessarily have control, but they have control, kind of like CDC, right? Where they'll put out these recommendations, and you're not necessarily forced to, but all these other entities will then.
Yeah, and they may withhold a little money, maybe.
Effectively, that's what's going to happen anyway. This is dangerous. I need people to certainly understand that all it is the government, the state rather, wanting to facilitate what they deem as righteous, just information. And even if we know it's not, this is effectively entering kind of 1984 kind of territory here. I mean, and we knew they had that whole disinformation deal with chick rage quit or whatever, and it looks like they're still continuing on with this because that was their new buzz term. You had misinformation, disinformation, which really mean our adversaries saying things that we don't like and we don't want out there, and we're going to try to suppress that information. So what they're trying to build is basically an information board per se that lets you know what you can talk about. And if it's outside of that, then you'll probably end up, they'll of course work with private entities, which is effectively fascism by literal textbook definition, much like what we got with the CDC, where, well, we're just doing what's according to CDC guidelines. It'll be, we're doing what's according to the misinformation or disinformation board's guidelines on whatever, and you can't misgender someone, and that's why we are taking you off the platform or seizing your bank account or whatever it's going to be. This is dangerous. It's dangerous territory.
It seems too like, I mean, obviously they just went through this whole big thing with the Disinformation Governance Board, and everyone made fun of it, and rightfully so. And they had Nina Jankowicz, and they were like, wait a second, maybe she's lame, and we need to just ditch this. But now they're just going to kind of reboot it, thinking that Kamala somehow is a better face for it?
I think she might do a better version of Mary Poppins, and I'm excited about that.
I'd hate to find out.
No, I kind of do I want to see that, actually. I don't know how many jobs they can give Kamala. Has she done any of them yet?
No.
They keep assigning her these problems, and all I see is constant failure everywhere she goes. I hope she fails here.
You mean the border czar
well.
who's never at the border?
Yes, she's never at the border. Wasn't she in charge of Ukraine for like 8 minutes too? And then that went really well.
Well, she did explain that Ukraine is a small country.
That's right.
And
then
Russia is
the
a
big
much
country?
bigger country.
I can't remember. I'll have to look at the map to make sure which one is which.
The meanie Russia.
I don't know if this thing has any teeth. I don't know how it's not. I don't know how it's constitutional, right? Like,
right.
We have the First Amendment, and it's all about the government doing something here. It's not, I mean, as much as we like to talk about First Amendment issues as they relate to social media and private companies, that's not purely a First Amendment issue. This would be. Like, this is the government actually doing it. Yeah. But I'm really glad they did it right now. Like, if they're going to do this, right now is the perfect time. Let me tell you why. The governor of Pennsylvania today put out a graphic. Did you see this? It's on Twitter, been floating around, about how red flag laws work.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that.
And it starts with Jane or whoever, some girl saying, hey, I saw somebody post pictures of guns on their social media. And then they go and tell the judge about it and the police about it. And the police go to the judge and they bring information. And then whoever this person who posted a picture of their gun loses their guns through the red flag law. And it shows you how quickly this can escalate. When you have a government entity who is identifying misinformation, when they're going after your online posting, when they're going after what you say, they can start marking these things as out of bounds. And when they start marking the things out of bounds, all of a sudden, you're a little dangerous. And if you're a little dangerous, well, maybe a police officer needs to look at what kind of activity you have. And all of a sudden, you're losing your rights that are guaranteed to you in the Constitution. This stuff, it can go really, really quickly. It's all part of a structure. This doesn't mean it would work exactly from this particular board, but it's all tied together. The more power you give these people, the more they're going to take away. And they're going to take it away without traditional due process, which is what the red flag law does. So, I mean, I think this is massively dangerous. The one out they seem to keep doing with these things is not giving them any teeth. They just, we're just going to discuss it. We're going to make recommendations, as you point out, like the CDC. So they have a little bit more flexibility there because basically the government can certainly talk about these issues and criticize people and these things. But as soon as they put teeth in it, it's blatantly unconstitutional. So they'll probably stop short of that. Doesn't make it any better, though.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back with more. First, we want to thank our sponsor, First Liberty. So the Democrats keep threatening this. They keep, every time they don't get what they want, they're like, we're going to pack the court. And make no mistake, court packing is a coup. The radical left is working overtime on new plans to pack the Supreme Court. And if we don't stop them from installing 4 more justices so they can rig the system in their favor, it's going to be catastrophic, not just for our court, but for our entire country. We cannot let that happen. That is why First Liberty needs you. They are gathering a coalition of 1 million patriots to say no to the court packing, no to all of it, the liberal agenda, and no to the Supreme Court coup. Franklin Graham, former U.S. Attorney General Ed Meese, Dr. James Dobson, the Family Policy Alliance, the Heritage Foundation, and over 400,000 people like you are all on board. You got to go sign your name. That's all they're asking you to do. Go sign your name at supremecoup.com. That is supremecoup.com. Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky grilled Dr. Anthony Fauci about government recommendations regarding COVID-19 booster shots for children during a Senate hearing yesterday, claiming that Fauci's approach was just conjecture. Let's listen to that exchange. Do we have it?
So there are no studies, and Americans should all know this. There are no studies on children showing a reduction in hospitalization or death with taking a booster. The only studies that were permitted, the only studies that were presented were antibody studies. So they say if we give you a booster, you make antibodies. Now, a lot of scientists would question whether or not that's proof of efficacy of a vaccine. If I give you 10, or if I give a patient 10 mRNA vaccines and they make protein each time or they make antibody each time, is that proof that we should give 10 boosters, Dr. Fauci?
No, I think that is somewhat of an absurd exaggeration.
Well, that is the proof that you use. Your committees use that. That's the only proof you have to tell children to take a booster is that they make antibodies. So it's not an absurdity. You're already at like 5 boosters for people. You've had, 2 or 3 boosters. It's like, where is the proof?
Oh man, we love to see it. I want to play one more for you. Guys. The whole thing was amazing. It's really hard to pick what to play, but I know we only have so much time. But Rand Paul was then asking Dr. Fauci how many children are at risk of being hospitalized and dying from COVID. And I went about the way that you would expect. Didn't quite get an answer from Fauci. Watch.
If your kid has had COVID, which is 75% of the country's had COVID, what is the chance that my child's going to the hospital or dying?
If you look at the number of deaths in pediatrics, Senator, you can see that there are more deaths
of people who have had it, of people who have had the disease.
Senator, we also know from other studies that the optimal degree of protection when you get infection is to get vaccinated after infection. And in fact, showing reinfection in the era of Omicron and the sublineages, that vaccination.
But you can't answer the question I asked. The question I ask is how many kids are dying and how many kids are going to the hospital who've already had COVID? The answer may be 0, but you're not even giving us the data because you have so much wanted to protect everybody from all the data because we're not smart enough to look at the data.
I feel like that is a pretty important piece of the puzzle for parents who, maybe call me unreasonable, but I feel like when you're deciding, do I want to inject my child with something, probably you're going to go, well, what's the risk that they're going to go to the hospital or die? Interesting that we don't have that answer before the FDA recommends the booster shots for children. Some might say it's not about their health at all. But some
you
might
wouldn't
say
this, but you're saying somebody might theoretically say something
somebody
like
might out there in the world. A lot of people have a lot of opinions.
Exactly.
Somebody out there might say that it's not about the kids' health and safety at all.
I mean, your chances in this age group are basically 0, right? It's basically 0. And like one of the things they're doing now with, this is playing to a very, I think, narrow subset of people on the left who were really freaked out about this from the beginning. And, I have to listen with my stupid job, have to listen to a lot of, left-wing commentators and podcasts and things like that. You should hear them talk about this stuff. They're like, we are so relieved we finally have a vaccine so we can let our kids out of the house for the first time. They've lived their entire life like this.
Oh my God.
And it's like, that's terrible. Like this is who this is playing to, right? I mean, your chances are basically 0. One of the things that they're doing right now, I want to say in this age group, 400 children they say have died from COVID, the entire pandemic, right? It's an incredibly small amount. Obviously, we want it to be 0, but it's not going to be 0.
I also would question
if that's even
who even knows, right?
Right,
like
they died with COVID, not from COVID,
Look,
right? Because there was that whole thing.
It might be 200. It might, whatever. It's incredibly infrequent. And one of the things that the left does, and they're doing this on guns now, which is they're saying the leading cause of death for those, I think it's 18 or 15 to 18 or 15 to 24, whatever, is guns. That's one of the things they're doing now. And of course, the reason, first of all, it's borderline whether this is true, but the main reason it's true is because car accidents have decreased a lot. It's not because gun have gone up quite a bit. But when you look at this, though, the overwhelmingly important part of that conversation is most people in that age group don't die at all, right? Like, it's really hard to die when you're 18 years old. You need to slam into something going 80 miles an hour for it to occur, which is why, and this is the thing here, look, it might be one, they're saying 200 to 400 deaths. It could be a lot. It's a lot for infants who don't usually die of stuff, right? Like usually you make it through, once you get born, you make it through the first year, you're usually going to make it for a few years. You're not usually going out doing all sorts of dangerous things. You're not usually getting terrible diseases. When you're in your 80s, you're getting those things typically. Look, if you want to vaccinate your kid with this stuff, you can do it. You should be able to do it if you want to take it. We are all, of course, in favor of parents making their own choice for their children. But like the way they handle this, they have taken a subset of children and basically made them prisoners because they've convinced these far left people that they can't go out of their house, and it's very dangerous to let their kids out of their house when it's not very dangerous. It's almost impossible if your kid gets COVID and is 4 years old that they're going to die from it. It's not completely impossible, but it's almost impossible. And frankly, should not be something that any parent really worries about. Yeah. It's really to that level. You worry about your 85-year-old, sure. Right. But your 5-year-old, really not a concern.
Yeah, and I think too, Eric, like when you're looking at the fact that they refuse to answer these questions and give this kind of data, you don't even really have true informed consent. Because I agree with you, Stu, that like it should be every parent's choice to make the decision, but how can they possibly make an informed decision when they are not given all of the information? They're only given one side.
We've already seen institutions pulling back, sort of either withholding information or withdrawing information because they don't like the way that it looks, or they think that people might assess it for what it actually is and may come to a different conclusion from what they want them to actually do, which is get as many jabs as possible. This is why people are forced to put their tinfoil hats on, because any rational person can look at this and say, okay, that doesn't make any sense. It's almost statistically insignificant, if there is to be, of people that age dying from COVID, regardless. So why on earth are people rushing to get them jabbed? Why are we having such big powwow? Why do we have so much things or so many different things that are resting upon, let's say, this demographic getting jabbed? Like, it's so stupid, whether it be schools opening up or whatever. None of it makes sense. And then when you have the guy that you have propped up as the leader in this whole situation really skirting around the issue, Rand's been the one that's been grilling him on a lot of things. If you actually go watch this entire exchange, it really gets interesting when he starts talking about how much money did you guys that were part of this whole approval process were getting in terms of these vaccine companies. It gets really interesting then, and it's the same thing. I got to try to skirt around the issue. So the people are forced to be like, well, all right, you're not giving us the truth. You're not even giving us the right data. You won't even admit it flat out what's actually going on. So we have to think like, what is going on? Right. There is some crooked stuff going on? Are you in bed with these pharmaceutical companies? Are you getting your pockets lined up in some way, shape, or form? Because this ain't about health. Objectively speaking, it's not about health. It's not, because we know the data says, and it said for a while, that demographic of people, it's statistically insignificant in terms of if they are going to get hospitalized or die. Why are you trying so damn hard? We haven't done this with anything else, but you're trying so hard to jab that demographic. Look, we have to put our tinfoil hats on.
It's such a stupid. First of all, if you're 5 years old, your best protection against COVID-19 is not the vaccine; it's being 5 years old. You're just really well protected at that age anyway. And beyond that, what are we talking about at this point? As Senator Paul said, 75% of people have had COVID already. I don't know. I'm guessing, this is me. I think that might be low. But then if you take the remaining 25%, probably 3/4 of them have been vaccinated, right? So who are we talking about now? There's just almost nobody left, right? Who is either unvaccinated or has never had COVID-19. There's almost no one. And probably a lot of those people who think they're in that group actually had it and had no symptoms and didn't realize it.
That's true.
So what are we even talking about anymore? It becomes so much a part of your life. You know what I mean? When you listen to the people on the left who are in this group that are so freaked out, so many of them, of course, in New York City, where it really did hit and was really traumatic, I think, for a lot of families early on. They've held on to that. They're afraid to go out. They're still wearing masks outdoors. They're still doing all of this craziness because it has become a mental disorder, right? It really has become a mental disorder. There is some sense in taking precautions when you can try to avoid getting sick. That means anything from you should also, not when you get the flu, not go out and try to expose other people. We all know there are basic things you can do, but this has infected not the body but the brain at this point. Yes. And like we are, as a country, there's no reason to make a gigantic priority out of vaccinating 6-month-olds for a virus they almost can't possibly have negative consequences over. It's just silly, and it's a dumb priority. We have other things that are really important we could be working on.
Do you think?
Yeah,
really?
There's a couple out there. Yeah.
I don't know. We never talk about them on this program. All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Keeps. So listen, if the first thing you notice when you look at a photo of yourself is your receding hairline or a bald spot, and you can't unsee it, once you focus in on it, Keeps can help you change that. Did you know?
It's like the stupid Apple flashbacks on your phone. And they're like, hey, look at you from 10 years ago. Yeah,
like,
shut up, Apple. Stupid iPhone.
Like a completely
I don't want to
different
see
person.
myself.
So 2 out of 3 guys experience hair loss before they're 35. It's nothing you're doing wrong. It's just in your genes. And if you don't want to gamble with your hair, you can flip the odds in your favor and save your hair with Keeps. So Keeps does it. It's really cool because you can be lazy from the comfort of your own home and take a couple pictures of your hair, send it over to Keeps. They have clinically proven, FDA-approved hair treatments available online. They've got doctors over there that will recommend the right one, ship it directly to you. You can still stay on your couch the entire time, and you can save your hair. It's also going to cost you about half because they're using the generic versions of all of these super expensive treatment plans. So if you have questions, you can message your Keeps doctor 24/7. You got to go to keeps.com/Y. They've got an awesome offer for you. You're going to get 50% off of your first order. Yes, that is 50, half off. That is Keeps, KEEPS.com/Y. We've gotten to now my favorite story of the day, which is the CDC has issued really wild guidance telling Americans infected with monkeypox to have sex by, this isn't really sex, you guys, to have sex by masturbating at least 6 feet away from their partner, among other recommendations. This is, guidance from the CDC says anyone who has the disease should don't have sex, but they're like, okay, but if you ignore our advice, here's a more safe way to do all of these things. And it's like, if you or a partner has monkeypox, the best way to protect yourself and others is to not have sex of any kind. But if you're gonna have sex, consider the following to reduce the chance of spreading the virus. Have sex while still fully clothed. Ensure all rashes are covered. Avoid kissing. Wash your hands, your fetish gear, of course, and your clothes immediately afterwards. And then you could also have sex virtually if you would like, maybe over the phone. So yeah, that's. I also want to just point out: do you guys have that? Do we have the actual infographic that they? Okay, yeah, that's fine. It's fine. So I don't know if you guys saw this.
I saw it.
Did you notice anything interesting about the couples that they showed? Now, they were like cartoon characters. They didn't even have faces, I don't think. But interestingly enough, they were all heterosexual couples.
No.
Can you believe during Pride Month, they would leave out the gay couples who actually, this is where monkeypox is actually happening primarily, is in the gay male community. But we don't see them demonstrated on any of the graphics. I just found that to be interesting.
We can just hope that some of them were trans. And
That's true. That's true. Maybe that's true.
And maybe that was the angle they took.
My understanding, by the way, is the only thing better than makeup sex is monkeypox sex. So anytime,
really?
Yeah, oh yeah. If you can get a piece of that, you got to go. Who wants to have sex with someone with monkeypox? It's one thing, like, if you're in a okay, it's hey, monkeypox is out there, you got to be careful. No, they're saying if you have it, try to do these things. Like, I just feel like there's not a huge amount of pent-up desire to have sex with someone who literally has active monkeypox.
Like oozing from all of their rash is just oozing, and you're like, hey, what you doing? You want to get it on? And it's just like, Well, don't just cover up any open wounds, okay?
So, I feel like that's a good idea during all sex. Like, I feel like always, if you have open wounds and rashes, good thing to cover during the sex part of the evening. You know?
I mean, why is the CDC even giving like guidance if they're just going to be like, well, here's our guidance, but if you're not going to take it, you should just do this instead.
That's kind of a new thing from the CDC, which is actually kind of funny. It's like they just realize no one's going to listen to them. Hey guys, wear 8 masks, but if you're not going to wear 8 masks, try to stay 6 inches away from each other or something. Can you do something? They've been so beaten down by how Americans are like, no, we're not listening to you anymore. Bye bye. But again, like I just feel like it's one thing. If you go up to someone and you're thinking about having sex with them and you're like, they might have monkeypox, I should be careful. But when you know they do, just wait. What kind of hormones do you have? Take a break, take a breather, go home, take a cold bath, something other than the sex with the monkeypox person.
I do want to point out they did pull this in the control room. So it's like, I just all male and female, it seems. So
yeah, that thing is
hateful.
Yeah.
Even the stuff with
where's the diversity?
Especially on Pride Month.
That's what I'm saying.
But no, seriously, with that being said,
CDC.
it seems like they are, I would say, leaders pertaining to this whole monkeypox thing are skirting around that part of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Around that part of who it impacts. You think that if it is something, it's like the HIV stuff all over again. You would think that if it is something that is impacting that community more, let's say.
You want to warn them.
Bingo. If it is that marginalized community and who really needs to look out, you wouldn't skirt around that, but that's exactly what they're doing. And this is why a lot of people don't take this, which they shouldn't, like the state and their kind of doctors, because a lot of it's chicken crap. A lot of it's like convenience. So that's who it impacts and all of that. They won't acknowledge if it does it to, let's say, a group that, well, they have championed, let's say. So that has been the most interesting part of that, because even with that part of the monkeypox issue, like you got to go down the depths of the internet to even find, like, wait a minute, oh, that's the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Like, or they'll say it like they're kind of bury it, but it's not like leading, like, you know, as far as who is it primarily is impacted.
It's interesting, too, because so it says monkeypox is not a sexually transmitted disease. It's transmitted from touching, like, the rash or the lesions on the skin, but the World Health Organization, is currently looking into reports that the rash-causing virus may be spread through semen, because Italian and German scientists say that they have detected fragments
HIV all over again.
They say that they've detected fragments of the disease in the semen of patients. So now we have the World Health Organization, who has a great track record, by the way, of giving us the full truth, and they're not in anyone's back pockets, of course. Very independent
Especially
agency.
not China.
Yeah, the World Health Organization. So that's, I don't know. I feel like, could they possibly change this now? Are we going to find out in 6 months?
It would not be the first time that
That's
they did
what I'm saying.
Not at all. It wouldn't be the first time that I want to be very clear that wouldn't be unorthodox in the event that they did that, where they did adjust it to say, well, it's not what we thought. Again, if you lived through the 80s and the 90s, you know that's, you know, how we look at like something like HIV now versus what we looked at it then. Ironically enough, Fauci was at the front of that whole epidemic deal as well. It wouldn't be the first time that they did it, not at all.
Then what's the CDC going to say?
I know. Then I guess they'll have to start blaming people for it, right?
Well, but how are they going to recommend that you have sex with your partner if it's an STD?
That's a good point. I guess now it's 12 feet away. And I don't know. You have to keep extending it. I mean, it's interesting because when you're not willing to say what's going on because you're worried of some intersectional problem, you could have real issues that could pop up. It might have been the Nellie Bowles article that was in The Atlantic on San Francisco, how the city was ruined, that came out this week, I think. And she's talking about how she lives in San Francisco, saw a homeless person that has been around the community for a long time, someone she recognized and seen all the time. And one day saw this person like really struggling from what looked like an overdose, like collapsed, I think eating cardboard on the side of the sidewalk, and really in a really bad place. And so she called the police. Hey, come help this person. The police come out. They're starting to help this person. They're going to bring them to some treatment center to help them, get off the street. And in the middle of that, the community activists come over and talk to the guy who's on drugs and say, you don't have to go with them. This is not, you don't feel like you're forced to go with them. So the guy decides not to go with them and winds up dead in a few weeks.
Jesus.
Right?
Wow.
I mean, like, this stuff happens all the time. And this, at some level, we treat this often like it's just this nonsensical bunch of blather, these bunch of idiots with their dumb, made-up terms and cis this and, gender that, and all that stuff. And it's like, in reality, it has real consequences for people, especially when they're in, dangerous. They might not know that they're in the middle of a dangerous activity, or being with people that may they may catch something like this.
Yeah.
You got to be honest about it.
Yeah.
This is science. This is health. This is medical treatment, and it needs to be taken seriously.
Yeah. All right. We've got more to come, but first we want to thank our sponsor, Sweatblock. So look, nobody likes to sweat. Nobody likes to talk about sweat. It's gross. People are like, I don't know, we're in Texas, right? So you walk outside and just immediately you're just a big sweaty mess. You go outside to check the mail and you come back like you just ran a marathon.
It's over 100 every day here right now.
And it feels like 120.
Yeah.
But if you're wearing Sweatblock, so they have a deodorant stick, but they also have these antiperspirant wipes. And if you put the wipes on in the evening, you can wear it for up to 7 days, and you don't have to even use the deodorant again and again and again and again, even in Texas. Here's proof. My husband is using it, and I'm sorry to embarrass you, babe, but very sweaty, okay? But not anymore. He was carrying in furniture from outside just yesterday. Did not sweat at all.
That's not really a believable story. I can't picture him
I'm not
carrying
kidding.
anything.
I'm not kidding. Even in Texas, I'm serious.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yes, they have a dry shirt guarantee as well. If Sweatblock doesn't keep you dry, you get your money back. So you have nothing to lose. Guys, this is a tried and true tested product on Amazon. They've got a ton of reviews. They're all great. You can try it risk-free today. Save 20% with promo code NEWS at sweatblock.com. It is a hot summer. You got to make sure you are stocked up with Sweatblock. It is available on Amazon as well, but you can go over to sweatblock.com, use promo code NEWS. In footage obtained by Project Veritas yesterday, there was a meeting with Twitter employees and Elon Musk, and he stressed the importance of having free speech on the platform he is in the process of purchasing. Watch.
I think it's essential to have a free speech. And to be able to communicate, just communicate freely if there are multiple opinions, but and just make sure that we're not sort of driving a narrative. In order for people to have trust in Twitter, I think it's extremely important that there be transparency. I think Twitter, in terms of serious issues, can be a lot better in informing people about serious issues. How many times have the media gotten it right? I would say almost never. Not never, but almost never.
Can we talk briefly about your political views?
Well, my political views, I think, are moderate. I'm in favor of moderate politics, but allowing people who have relatively extreme views to express those views within the bounds of the law.
After this leaked, I found it funny. Elon responded to this leaking out on Twitter, and I think his words were just exactly.
So he agreed with himself?
Yes, exactly. But of course, Twitter employees melting down some of the things that were said. He literally just voted for a QAnon promoter in Texas. Don't think that's true. Of course, they're referring to Myra. Why am I blanking on her last name? The Hispanic woman that just won here in Texas. A hearty middle finger emoji to the board for selling the company to someone who cannot get through a single coherent sentence about this platform and who thinks a QAnon candidate is a, quote, moderate candidate. Ron DeSantis' endorsement seems totally moderate. Ron DeSantis, leader of the Don't Say Gay bill, is the worst possible person to lead this country, and he's the person you endorse.
It's amazing. You're used to seeing Project Veritas come up with these really salacious videos and all these really shocking things. That was the most boring video I've ever seen in my life. He's just saying you should be able to say stuff. What? I don't understand it.
But the reaction from the Twitter employees was not that, right? They were like, I can't believe that he just did that.
Well, as we saw with SpaceX, if you don't like Elon, you don't like what he's doing, get out.
Right.
That's what he's just done. He just says, hey, if you're going to complain about me, you're going to try to get me fired, get out.
Right.
And I think that's they need a little bit of that in the tech industry. They need a little bit of
100%.
that.
Yes, they do.
Twitter.
They absolutely need a bit of that. I mean, this isn't our first time we've seen kind of leaks of the reaction of Twitter employees, and really they're all deranged leftists. So you saw the data that had come out with the previous, what was it like? I can't remember if it was the midterms or was the previous election, where like 97% of the donos that were going to different various candidates that were Twitter employees were going to Democrats. So we all know what side of the aisle that a lot of those guys, for the most part, are on. It's not unusual, definitely with tech and the weirdos that they tend to hire for some reason. Those are the worst, absolutely the worst people, and I speak from experience, the worst people to hire. Definitely advocates of social justice, for sure, because to them, like, think about that reaction, that mild statement. You said it was boring, because that's exactly what it was. It was just mild. It's basically all of what we already heard him say before. Just, hey, we should be on this platform. You should be able to say whatever you want to say.
Common sense.
Just really basic stuff. And that in itself, just the idea of him saying that, sends them they're in a tirade. And it goes to show what type of people that we're dealing with. They have absolutely no problem suppressing you. They want you suppressed. They don't want to be able to hear even thoughts of their ideological enemies. They do not want to exist on the same plane as you. And I think the lesson here that not only Elon, I'm pretty sure he already knew, but a lot of people know, if you're entering business, stop hiring these weirdos. Is it discriminatory? Absolutely. But private property, that's what I said that earlier this week, and that private property, the concept of it actually says, it implies discrimination. That I get to decide who gets to use what it is and in what way they use what it is that I own. These are the worst types of people. They don't care about your bottom line. They don't care about fairness. They don't care about what's just or anything. They care about is this advantageous to whatever cause it is that they're trying to advocate? And Twitter has been exactly that, and they were perfectly fine. But the idea, not that it will go to the other side, the idea here is that basically the playing field is just even for everybody. That in itself is just such a dangerous concept to them.
Yeah, I just keep waiting. I'm not going to believe that he really is going to buy it until it it just seems like, why would he still want this cesspool?
There's a lot of public maybe I won't buy it today. These things keep popping out. I wonder too if it's going to go. But I mean, if he's making internal comments
that's what I thought. I'm like,
be real.
He's giving speeches to them. They've got to be pretty close to it. All right, we'll see. But until then, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. I just especially when the report came out. Convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell's cellmate has made multiple claims of being offered money to kill Maxwell. This is lawyers for Maxwell say. So this is allegedly, but look, one of the female inmates in her housing unit told at least 3 other inmates that she has been offered money to murder her and that she planned to strangle her in her sleep. Interesting to see what comes out of that, but I feel like we could. Eric said earlier that he is putting his tinfoil hat on.
Even the fact that she even has a cellmate, to me is of all people, that's pretty sketch, man. Of all people, because anything could happen. It's almost like you want something to happen to her for various reasons. So,
well, don't worry. I'm sure that if it happened, the cameras wouldn't malfunction.
Technology doesn't always work.
Well,
you
can't be expected to have cameras functioning in a place such as a prison.
I'll just say that if her new cellmate looks like Bill Clinton in a wig, I would be very worried about that. That's just my advice to the people working at the prison.
Oh, all right. Well, make sure that you subscribe to both of these gentlemen's channels. Okay?
I agree. I agree with that.
Don't subscribe to Ghislaine Maxwell's channel. It sucks. You don't want to see it. You'll get in big trouble. But Young Ripa 59, you can find him. He does way too many YouTubes a day.
Yeah, this is my second show.
He's always on, is my point. So
we got Friday Night Tights tomorrow.
Yeah,
tonight.
Yeah. And Stu Does America. So make sure you are following both of these gentlemen, and we'll see you next week.